Hello and welcome to another edition of Alberta Solar Pioneers. I have Kevin Hansen here, and I'm Dejan Ristic, the oil and gas solar guy. How's it going today?
Not bad so far. It's a nice sunny day.
We're sitting in the shade, but it is a hot day again. Yeah, so just wanted to touch base with you, Kevin, about your experience owning solar power on the acreage.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering if you could sort of explain for the viewers how you originally got the idea to go solar on the acreage. I know you have a background being an electrician, so it's sort of in your field. Can you give us the history?
Yeah, I've always been, since I was a kid, interested in solar panels, solar cells, and being in the industry, it was just natural for me to follow up, look into it.
Mm-hmm.
So back in 2015, I actually purchased solar panels at the time, an inverter, and put a system up on the acreage. I put 5 kilowatts in, and I've had that running now since 2015, so over 7 years. Yeah.
5 kilowatts, 23 panels.
Yeah.
What I found...
Go ahead.
What I found really interesting is that 7 years later, the production hasn't dropped one little tiny bit.
That's right. Just this. When I bought the original panels, I had bought enough to do 10 kilowatts, but I only had enough roof space for 5.
Okay.
So ever since then, I've been procrastinating as to what I was going to do, whether I was going to build a shop, so I could have some more roof space, but never did build a shop. So this spring, I opted to just go with a ground mount system put on top of a C-can, 40-foot C-can.
40-foot, yeah.
A 40-foot C-can just worked perfect for a 5 kilowatt array.
Just the right size.
Just the right size, just based on using a ground mount system, which is commonplace.
Yeah. And then you also mentioned that you actually had, for this sort of area of your property, you need to get power lines drawn to there back in 2015. Was that the case?
Yeah.
I mean, this is a little bit more of a niche type of an application, but still, can you let our audience know how was that experience? You had to get some permits. How expensive was that to get the power lines brought in and everything like that?
Well, it's a farm site, so the farm site stuff worked out better. It would have cost in the area of $30,000 to get the poles and everything brought in. But with being a farm site, it ended up costing, I think, $3,000 with ATCO to bring the power in.
Okay, so
And
it was
then
partially subsidized.
Yeah, it was subsidized by ATCO, but you're tying into like a 50-year payback anyway. So,
Okay.
it's costing I think it's over $100 a month for the grid, is basically your line charges and everything.
Just to get the grid brought in, yeah?
Just to have it there, yeah. So, if you're doing it there just to have solar, I mean, I have power on the farm, so the idea was to get the power in anyway.
Exactly.
If you're just looking at doing it just to produce power to put back in the grid, it wouldn't really pay. But, because basically to have power on a farm, it's going to cost you around $100 a month.
Sure.
Regardless whether you have solar or not, right? So
Sure.
the solar does help offset it for sure.
So a lot of people who are just starting to ponder going solar have a lot of... It's quite foreign for somebody who hasn't had solar so far. So having been a solar owner for 7+ years now, what would you like to relay to the newbies, people who might be going solar in the near future or in the more medium distant future kind of thing?
Solar is a totally reliable technology. I put the original system in 7 years ago, like you said, and all I do is read the meter. I don't wash the panels. I don't have to do anything. There's no maintenance to do on it. All I do is read the meter once in a while to see how it's doing. And I've had 0 problems. I haven't had a fuse blow.
Sure.
Basically nothing. I guess the only maintenance I've ever done on that system is to take the fan screen off the fan, or the cooling fan for the inverter.
For the inverter, okay,
and
that's
just clean the fluff off of the screen.
Clean the fluff off the fan and the screen.
That's the maintenance. That's what.
Yeah,
I've done.
the little bit of a filter of the air going into the fan.
That's right.
And even that was somewhat optional. Like you could have run for years and years without
I'm sure
cleaning off the fluff.
Yeah, I just noticed it was getting plugged up, so I thought, better to keep it cool. Right?
Got it.
But other than that, a lot of people concerns they have is, well, it's going to take forever to pay back. I'm not only going to be here for another 20 years. Like, how's the payback? Well, I kind of look at it and say, if you do the simple math on a payback of a solar system,
Mm-hmm.
without any grants or anything, it's basically a 5% return.
Mm-hmm.
So, in the last 15 years, you haven't seen a 5% return on,
Most investments.
most investments.
That's
So
right.
if you can pretty much guarantee yourself a 5% return, and that's based on the price of power now,
Mm-hmm.
why wouldn't you do that? And if power doubles, well, it's only going to get better, right?
Exactly.
So really, I look at it that way, and the comfort knowing you're doing the right thing. It's the right thing to be doing. That's a big part of why I did it.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't just for a return on the dollar. It was because I knew it was something when you talk to your kids and your grandkids, at least they can say, well, yeah, you're trying to do something
Exactly.
sustainable. Yeah.
Yeah. So, if somebody were to be pondering, like, no maintenance, it's a significant size system, it costs quite a bit of money to get, even though it's paid off over time nowadays with the government grants and all the other benefits that people are getting nowadays. But how can one wrap one's head around the fact that this really is no maintenance? How is it that that's an asset, a piece of power generating equipment, has no maintenance?
There's no moving parts.
There's no moving parts, yeah.
Strictly silicon, works with the sun. Sun hits it, it kicks out power.
It goes through the wires,
Goes
moves
through
in the wires, yeah.
Goes down to your inverter. Your inverter converts it to 240, which is, hooking it into your system is as simple as hooking up a dryer.
Mm-hmm.
You have a 30 amp, in the case of a 5 kilowatt array, it's a 30 amp 2-pole breaker. You put it in.
Mm-hmm.
The power goes into your panel whenever you're not using it all. The excess goes back into the grid. In Alberta, if you apply for a solar array install, if you're approved for that install, ATCO or whoever your distributor is in the area, they're mandated to supply you the net meter for no charge.
Mm-hmm.
So the meter is very clear.
So now it doesn't even plug into the panel directly with the modern way of installing it and the inverter feeding to the net meter. Is that correct?
No, it just
it's
goes
still
right into your panel. You just hook it into your distribution panel,
Uh-huh.
and it automatically feeds back in through the meter up the pole.
Okay. So how would the meter know that? I guess it knows that it's flowing the other way.
Yeah, the meter is bi-directional, so there's two arrows on the meter. It's a digital meter. If you go look at the power meter, and it's just got an arrow up and an arrow down. It shows you how
Got
much
it.
has gone up the pole and how much has come down the pole.
Wonderful.
It's very straightforward. And like I say, there was no heartache about it. It was
Mhm.
like I applied for it. When the grid came in, they automatically put in the net meter. There was no argument.
How about when a person goes like, well, how is it gonna work in the snow? What's the consideration with the fact that we have a lot of snow?
Well, we have a lot of snow. If you have a fairly steep angle on your roof, which I do, the steeper your angle, as soon as the sun comes out in the winter on a clear day, it starts to melt off the corners, and most of the time it's clear. If there's a real big heavy snowstorm, it might be built up for a week or two, and your production will drop off to next to nothing. But in the winter months, the production is next to nothing anyway, so you're not expecting a
It's a
whole
lot
bunch
lower.
of your
Yeah.
You're only getting sunshine on a sunny day in the middle of winter in Alberta. What are you getting?
Maybe 8 hours, maybe, yeah.
Well, you'd be lucky.
7.5?
You're lucky to get 8 hours of.
Yeah.
And it's so low on the horizon that you're not getting a good strong angle on your panels anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So really, if you're putting solar in my opinion, in Alberta, you're putting it in for the production from March basically until October.
Got it.
And you got the cold winter months where you're getting up in the morning and it's dark, and you're coming home and it's dark.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, solar's not doing anything then, but it really makes up for it in the middle of summer when you got a 16 hours of sunlight. Right?
That's
So
right.
It's
Yeah, so
averaged over the year.
The lower production in the winter is accounted for and balanced by the superior production in the summer, and it balances out.
That's right, and
Yeah.
and like any of your solar guys will constantly remind people of, is basically your production is basically the same number of kilowatt hours as your solar array is. So if I've got a 5,000 or a 5 kilowatt array,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to get 5,000 kilowatt hours a year
In the
out of-
ballpark, yeah.
in that ballpark. I've been averaging between 6,000 and 7,000 a year.
Right, because we're in Alberta.
Because we're in Alberta, and I've got a clear spot with no trees, no shading,
Got it.
and a good sharp angle facing south.
Yeah.
Those are the things that people have to consider. Utilizing your rooftop. And I've heard all the arguments over the years from all the naysayers about, oh, you're wasting good productive land and all this stuff with solar. Really, guys, there's enough roofs in Edmonton here. If everybody with a south-facing roof put solar on, it would have a big impact.
It makes a huge difference, yeah.
Especially
it does.
on the summertime load when days like today, if it's 30 degrees and you got a full sunny hot day, what better than having solar on your roof that's helping contribute to your AC load?
And then,
kind of natural.
Without going into the details, so you're saying you're quite happy with the amount of credits you're getting. Like you're basically making money.
Yeah, in the summer months.
Making some money at least.
Oh yeah, in the summer months it totally offsets. There's no problem with the summer months. And in the winter months, well, you're getting something out of it, right?
Okay.
And you've got the peace of mind knowing that you've got it there.
So people who are considering solar and they're seeing these estimates and the economics, you would basically, like, we actually went through an estimate for your house here in is it called Belmead?
No, west end of Edmonton.
West end of Edmonton, yeah. So the estimate you're seeing, it's something that makes sense in the sense that you are sort of it's clear that it's in the ballpark of what to expect reasonably, that it's not something that people are sort of getting out there as an overpromise and then they're going to underdeliver down the road.
That's right. No, 100%. I mean, I'm an electrician. That's my background. I've done all the math for years. There's no doubt in my mind. I mean, I know, and on my experience now, if I put in a 5,000 watt system, expecting to get 5,000 kilowatt hours a year out of it, and I'm getting between 6,000 and 7,000 kilowatt. So the sun's doing its job, and the sun's not going anywhere fast.
That's right.
People argue, oh, what if the sun doesn't shine? Basically, it shines. You're going to get your cloudy days, you're going to get your rainy days. You're not relying on it. You're hooked up to the grid. So if you think of the grid as a big battery, you're just supplying power back into the grid when you have excess, and you're buying it back when you need it. So you're basically storing it. That was an option that I had when I put it in. If you want to have backup, well, then you're putting in batteries. It's a lot more expensive to put in battery storage. It gives you the peace of mind if there's an outage, like as we're talking right now, the power's out in the house.
We had an outage, yes, right now.
But as funny as that is, but you're paying a premium for that. So if you're in a situation where you need that backup, that's a whole different thing. But the systems are there. They will do it. They'll do whatever you want. But the most basic, straightforward way to approach it is, you tie into the grid. They're giving you good rates now if you get on the clubs and stuff where you can actually pay a higher rate in summer so that you get paid better for your power in the summer.
You're paying a higher rate but using minimal power because most of your power comes from solar in the summer.
That's right. So if your system is big enough that you're actually going to mostly have excess in the summer, if you're not running a bunch of air conditioning, it's up to you, right?
Sure.
But you could actually, end up with negative bills in the summer months. So there's value to that too.
That's a nice chunk of change.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
I like to ask the question, Kevin, how is your life before solar? How was it, and how is your life after solar?
Biggest difference is just looking at the power bills.
That's right.
Once I put this, I can't emphasize that enough. Once it's up there, if it's installed properly, there's no issues. I mean, the thing just operates.
It
hums. The sun comes up, you'll hear the inverter humming when it's kicked on.
That's right.
You hear a fan running if you go to check it. You take your readings. I mean, literally, honestly, the only thing I've done is clean that one filter, and that's in 7 years.
So it's smooth operation.
Yeah, and as we spoke earlier,
hassle-free.
Hassle-free, and the first system is 7 years old, and the other half that I finally put up on the CCAN, I just installed it, and the first couple days when I went to take the readings off of the two, I could compare the two systems.
Yeah.
And I'm within 1 kilowatt a day, 1 kilowatt hour a day of production from the new one versus the old one. And
the old one was lower or bigger?
The new one is bigger. The new one has 1 more kilowatt hour a day production than the old one. But it's also a quarter of a kilowatt bigger in the array.
In the array,
Because
okay.
it's got 24 panels as opposed to 23,
Okay.
which the pictures show.
The 250 watt extra, yeah.
235 watt. Yeah.
Okay.
So really, when I look at that and say, okay, wow, this one's brand new. It's
Okay.
clean out of the box.
Yep.
The other one's been up there for 7 years. It's been seeing rain, snow, everything.
Yep.
And after 7 years, I'm literally, they're producing the same amount of power.
So
So
how
there's
long
been
can a
no
solar system
degradation.
last? It could be decades and decades.
They're saying the warranty is 25 to 30 years on them. I firmly believe that based on what I've seen so far. I mean, 7 years, there's no degradation.
Yeah.
So, and they're out there. They're
hmm
facing the elements.
So needless to say, you're quite happy with your solar system, and you wouldn't have it any other way.
I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah.
I think anybody with a south-facing roof
Yeah.
should be figuring out a way to
East
do it.
and west. What about east and west? I mean, it still produces, right?
East and west produce. Yeah, if you only got east and west, you're just not going to get the production that you're going to get out of
But it's
pure
still
south-facing.
right around 5,000 for a 5 kilowatt. It might be 4,800, 4,700 kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that's something I haven't had a lot of experience with, but
Mhm.
I've read a lot where,
Yeah.
the potential is because you get real good exposure in the morning and real good exposure in the evening,
Exactly.
as opposed to kind of a south exposure, which is not always, premium.
Head on, yeah.
So-
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But I start with saying, okay, if I got full south, I'm a natural. If I got east-west, well, then I got to do the math a little bit tighter.
What would you tell to the people who are queasy about having their roof having 100 holes in it? You know, how good is the ceiling nowadays from you being in the trades and everything?
The systems that they've got in place, they're fully warranted, I believe, even by
They
some of
are.
the roofing manufacturers.
They are, yeah.
There's really, when you look at the flashing systems that they use for attaching, that they would, I think you can buy a warranty or whatever for your roof.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't even, that's not a
The
consideration.
roofer will
for-
warranty the roofs,
Yeah.
exactly, with the solar installed on it. Yeah,
So
exactly.
putting holes in your roof, you know what? You got to anchor them. They got to be solid. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but the flashings that they're using they're rated for roofs. They're not. It's not just somebody coming and putting screws in your roof.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Some
they're
fly-by-night
particular-
person installing satellite dishes.
Exactly. It's
Yeah, it's
they're-
rated for roofs and winters and lots of rain and
it's-
long-term duration.
Yeah, the systems are built for that. That's all they
Yeah.
do. So,
Okay.
if you were putting up rooftop arrays and they were leaking after a year, you wouldn't be in business very long.
No, absolutely, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I think that the warranty on the panels typically would outlast the warranty on your roofing, whatever your roofing is. And I dare say it would probably extend your roofing, at least in the areas where the panels are. because-
Absolutely, yeah. That's a huge value right there,
Yeah,
even
yeah.
thousands of dollars
Saves
potentially.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, any final thoughts before we bring it in?
Good by me. And for me, it's just like,
Yeah.
the sun shines. I had a T-shirt somewhere I got from one of the solar guys that said, how reliable is the sun? It's only been coming up every day for the last 3 billion years. So it's
Absolutely.
a pretty reliable source of energy.
I wonder if
wouldn't you
our
tap
grid is
into it?
back up now. We can go check.
Good luck. Yeah, good luck on that.
Thanks so much, Kevin.
Yeah, good
Yeah.
talking to you.
Alrighty.